Ruthie Carter is a scholar of fashion history, a legendary trailblazer. She became the first and only Black woman to win an Oscar for her costumes in the iconic film Black Panther. Name it, and Ruthie Carter likely had her hands on what was worn. From how Stella got her groove back to Seinfeld, Ruth has worked with countless directors to help characters and scenes come to life. Spike Lee tapped her for Do the Right Thing and Malcolm X. And when it was time for one of his most important films, Amistad, it was Ruth E. Carter who got the call from Steven Spielberg. For the return of Zamunda, it was the woman from Springfield, Massachusetts, not Queens, who helped thread together one of the most anticipated sequels ever.
And just last month, Ruth was celebrated in true Hollywood fashion, becoming one of only 2 costume designers ever to get her very own star on that famous Hollywood Walk of Fame, honoring her iconic career. And joining us now and looking just beautiful is the one and only Ruth E. Carter. It is so good to see you. Congratulations on everything. I mean, listen, we did a project together a couple of years ago where you were with young fashion designers in New York telling your story. And
Yes.
to think that a young girl, one of 8 kids, a single mom in Massachusetts, Springfield, Massachusetts, could be here today. How do you describe it, Ruth?
Well, it's like a fairy tale of my long journey, and it's a story that I'm proud to be able to share with people today because it took a lot of hard work. You know, nothing was handed to me, and I appreciate it. I appreciate people wanting to know my story. I actually am shocked when people ask me, "You did, you know, BAPS?" And I go, "Yeah, that was me. That was me."
That is crazy. You know, I heard, it was on a podcast, I can't remember, the funniest story of when you first met Spike Lee. He asked you to do the costumes for school days. And
Yes.
I think you'd never been on a subway. I don't think you'd ever even been in New York. And you had all of these suitcases lugging it to his place in Brooklyn so that you
Yes.
could get the job. And now, what is it,
Yes,
14 films later, and you're still working
Yes.
together?
Yeah. You know, Spike was very grassroots, and he laid it out. This is what you got to do to get here, and take the A train and the number 2, get in the back of the train and go through the turnstile. And I'm like taking this big portfolio with me, and I did it. I didn't even mind. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary for him or for me. So it was the beginning of a journey, between 2 artists, and it lasted for 30 years.
That's amazing. You know, it's interesting. You talked a lot about, and have talked a lot about, the history that you studied to create the costumes for an Amistad, for example. I mean, this is not, let me go through the racks and pull some things off the racks. You create these images from sketch to reality.
Yes.
When it's a film like A Coming to America, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying because I love, the history so much. When you look at art history or you look at research and you want it to come to life, when you see a James Van Der Zee portrait, you want it to come to life. And those things don't exist. You have to build them.
So when you are looking at a place like Zamunda that does not exist, but obviously inspired by a continent, how do you narrow it down? I know you work with about, 39 designers from around the world. One of them was Laduma, the man behind the South African label Makosa.
Yes.
For you, how do you narrow it down when you have such a plethora of riches to choose from?
Yes, I don't try to reach out way too far. Once I zero in on the designers that are presenting the style that I'm looking for, I have a conversation with them, and we decide whether or not this aesthetic is going to adjust, because we have to create the world that is written.
Wow.
script. And so we make adjustments, but Laduma I knew from my trip to South Africa after shooting Black Panther, and I really did love his Indebele prints, those vibrant graphics.
Oh,
And
wow.
I wanted him to do the palace uniforms, and so we talked about what types of uniforms we would do and how we would, work it out. And so he just kept sending me stuff, and I was morphing it and changing it and cutting it.
Well, it was brilliant to see. Listen, it was brilliant to see. And if you ever want someone to come and pick up the leftovers from Coming to America, I'm available, and I'll take my big suitcase. We love you, Ruth. Congratulations on everything. It's just incredible to watch what you've achieved and the kids you've inspired. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you so much, Tamron.